What if I told you that scientists have discovered a new coronavirus that is just one mutation away from infecting humans? And no, this isn't like a conspiracy theory. No, this isn't like some conjecture that you read on a random blog. No, recent research have just came out that is very concerning that there may be a new coronavirus that could affect humans. And today we're going to talk about it. I took the liberty to read up on this article here so you don't have to. And we're going to talk about, is this a concern? Is this something you should be worried about? And why were the financial markets spooked? Because that's how it came across my desk. Like, I just started seeing people get worried, people started scrambling, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh my God, a new coronavirus is out. So today we're going to talk about this new coronavirus that could be of concern. And more importantly, we're going to talk about like, what can we do about this for now? And before we jump in, make sure if you want to stay up to date on all the news, health-related news, you're truly Dr. Bayer Pierre, hit that subscribe button. All right, so what is the HKU5 coronavirus, right? Like, what is this variant about and why should you be worried about it? So the HKU5 virus is a part of what we call a family of MERS-CoV-viruses, right? MERS-CoV-viruses or MERS-CoV-viruses, one of the deadliest coronaviruses that we see. What is our initial concern? What do we know about it for now? We know that it's discovered in bats, right? And, you know, I know some people are getting PTSD because they're like, oh my God, not the bats again. Related to the MERS-CoV virus, but it does behave differently. More importantly, that these coronaviruses, like our previous SARS-CoV virus, which caused, you know, the pandemic and everything, it can mutate and jump to species. And that's kind of why you're watching this video now or listening to this on the podcast. Because you want to know, hey, is this another virus that I got to be worried about? Because do I have to like worry about a lockdown? Do I have to worry about, you know, wearing masks again? Do I have to worry about potentially another pandemic? And we're going to talk about whether you have to worry about it or not. So why are scientists worried about this virus? Because again, they wouldn't write it up if they weren't concerned. Because we've had plenty of variants, especially of the SARS-CoV virus, plenty of variants. So why are scientists worried particularly about this one? We know historically that the issue with the coronaviruses and what's really been the biggest problem, especially with COVID, is that its ability to mutate and how rapidly it mutates. So this HKU5, it already has properties where its ability to mutate rapidly is of concern. And I think what really caused scientists to be up in a tizzy, and more importantly, what caused the financial markets to be up in a tizzy, is that they recognized that there was one mutation, and it only took one. There was one mutation, and again, I got this here, the H560K mutation that now allowed this HKU5 variant of a coronavirus to now jump to humans, theoretically. And I do want to say this theoretically. This hasn't happened yet. This isn't something that yet someone's already been, no. Theoretically, from a lab perspective, they recognize that, hey, if there's this one mutation that occurs, again, H560K, right? And again, for those who watch my Lunch and Learn community members, y'all know, I'm not here to fully science you out. I got experts who will come on the show and do that for me. I'm more here to give you a general overlook, right? But I just wanted you to understand why your stock numbers or your crypto numbers might have dropped, or why scientists may be a little bit concerned, because these mutations are possible that can now make this HKU5 variant that primarily affects bats, cattle, and sheep to now jump to human cells, right? We're just seeing it on cellular level. Has it happened? Right? I want to stress this. It has not happened yet, but there is a concern there, right? And more importantly, again, this is, for those who want to read the article, I will have it in the show notes. So if you want to read the article, like if you're a nerd like me, you want to actually read the article, I will have it in the show notes. The ACE2 receptors, right? And this is similar because the SARS-CoV viruses also use the ACE2 receptors to jump to humans. So and humans have ACE2 receptors. So this is where you have a possibility where a virus can hitch a ride, so to speak, right? For our non-sciencey folks to understand, like, why does it matter if it has the receptor? It's because these are how these viruses will hitch a ride to our cells and cause an infection. So yes, you have this HKU variant. It's affecting, again, minks, cattle, sheep. That's where it primarily affects, especially when we're not talking about bats, right? But we know that because coronaviruses mutate quickly, we know that there is a possibility that if a certain mutation, again, Y560K, right, mutation occurs, guess what? Now all of a sudden, it can now attach to these ACE2 receptors, which can now cause us problems. So that's what caused the alarms. That's what caused the scientists to be like, hold up now, what is happening here? Because no one wants to be caught off guard to a new variant, to a new virus, because we saw what happened when we were caught off guard with the first one. And I'm on record saying that, especially with the world that it is today and what I learned with the pandemic and the pandemic response, I can only pray what would happen if some type of virus variant happened again. I can only pray, because the amount of people, right, and I'll get on my little soapbox, but the amount of people who took the opportunity of, hey, you know what, we're in a pandemic, I'm going to show my true colors, and really show their true colors, was so scary to me that if we had another virus that came around that caused a lot of harm, that could cause a lot of harm quickly into a lot of people, I think the level of distrust, especially here, I don't know how it is. I won't speak for the world. I'll speak for the United States. In the United States, we have a lot of people who are anti-vax. We got a president who is like, he's weirdly anti-vax, even though he got vaccinated. We have a Department of Health and Human Services who is anti-vax. He got vaccinated. So it's a very weird thing, right? Where they're anti something that they got no problem taking because they know it saves lives. And understanding that because they're in charge, I don't even want to know what the response would be, right? Because we've already seen what the response was the first time our president was around, President Trump was around when the coronavirus came around. So I don't even want to even imagine what the response would be the second time around, especially with the level of distrust and disinformation that was spread during the first pandemic, right? So again, I'm stressing this to say, I don't want people to start running out and trying to buy all of the hand sanitizers and masks and think they gotta, lock down in a room. This is not it, right? But this is the information gathering stage. And that's kind of where we're at now. We are gathering information. We are looking to see, hey, there's something on the horizon that may be a concern. It's not a concern, but it may be a concern, and I need to be at least aware of what's going on so I'm not blindsided by it. And again, just reiterating the fact that scientifically it has been proven that this coronavirus, HKU5, can affect humans, right? They did it in the labs. In the labs. I want people to stress this. I don't want people to clip out the fact that I'm saying, yes, it can affect humans. Yes, it can, but we've only seen it happen scientifically in the laboratory. Right, so they have done these studies, they have done the experiments, they have done the mutations, they have found that just this one mutation here is enough, right, to efficiently affect human cells. And that's a problem because we know that the family, the MERS-CoV viruses, that family, the MERS-CoV viruses are pretty deadly, right, and pretty contagious. So now we know scientifically in the lab, in a controlled lab environment, that yes, it can affect humans. And I already saw conspiracy theorists saying, oh my God, they're already setting us up for another pandemic. Oh my God, there's going to be a quote unquote another outbreak that leaks from the lab. I already seen people do that, which is absolutely ridiculous. But again, here in this country, United States, kind of what we have to kind of deal with, right? When we're dealing with people who peddle in misinformation and disinformation, that people are already going to run with lies. And it's interesting that just the thought, right? Just the thought that, hey, another coronavirus may be around was enough to spook the financial market, was enough to cause, crypto to crash and stock markets to crash, but at least dip a little bit, right? Just the thought of it was enough for that to occur. I thought that was very interesting to me. So I think it's very concerning when we think about, hey, we have these viruses, and mind you, we're still dealing with the coronavirus now. We're still dealing with variants now. People are still dying now, even though, and I've said this before, even though you're not seeing it on your TV, it's off the TV. They made sure of that. And this new administration is making sure that if it's even started bubbling up, right, that it would quickly dissipate, right? This administration is going to be good at doing that. So you're not going to get the necessary fanfare that you're going to get. But trust me, we're still seeing these patients in the hospital. People are still dying in the hospital from it. So we're still dealing with the coronavirus. We're still dealing with the treatments needed for the coronavirus. We're still dealing with the ill effects from the coronavirus, just because you don't see it on your TV. But it's interesting that all it took was an article published in this journal, and then all of a sudden people were going crazy, right? It's one of those things where I want us to take information but be able to process it appropriately. And I think that's why a lot of the people in the lunch learning community kind of follow me, right? Whether you're a patient or not a patient, but whether you're just a person just trying to be more inclined and more empowered with your health, whether you're a health professional, whether you're just trying to figure out all right, yeah, I'm trying to figure figure out how do I talk to people who want to be more inclined about their health. Like that's typically why you either follow me, you watch me, or you listen to me, right? Because you kind of fall in one of those patterns. So I want us to be able to take information. Yes, it is important to know, but I don't want us to run. I don't want us to run to the grocery store, clean out the toilet. I don't want us to do those things there. And I think that's why it's important for, people like me to get on and educate our community as much as possible, right? Because I already know that the conspiracy theorists are going to do it. I already know that the people who are anti-vax are going to do it, right? Like, mind you, like, we haven't even talked about treatment options, right? We haven't even talked about that, but my anti-vaxxers are already saying like, oh, here it goes again, right? They want to stick us with another vaccine, right? We haven't even talked about the treatment, right? We haven't even got to the point where we're even thinking about needing to treat. We're just saying, hey, I see this virus out here. It's, it lives in the bats, it affects the bats, and there's a possibility that it could affect us. That's all from a scientific perspective, the article kind of says in the gist. But here we go. People are just running at, like, they can't wait to say like, oh my God, I knew it. It's over. We're back to the pandemic. Like, no, let's stop it. Let's hold our horses here, please. So obviously the question that, you want to know watching this video is, are we headed to a new pandemic? That's what you want to know. Like, you watch this, you listen to this because you want to know, Dr. Pierre, are we getting another pandemic? So let me tell you what we don't know and what we know, right? Because I think it's important. What do we know and what we don't know? Let's separate the facts here. We know, right, that HKU5 virus is evolving, right? Because viruses evolve, they mutate. We know that there's a possibility that it can evolve to transmit to humans. One, we know that. We know that it's infected bats as well as non-bats. We know that. And we know that scientists and, medical professionals, healthcare content creators like myself, we're watching it closely. Again, we are not going to be blindsided like we were with the SARS-CoV virus. That's not going to happen. I can tell you there's a lot of lessons that were learned from the previous pandemic, right? And I say previous pandemic because for the majority of people who watch or listen to this, that will likely be the only pandemic you will ever experience in your life. Because I think a lot of times we throw out this word pandemic like it's a seasonal thing. No. For the majority of people who are watching and listening to this, that will likely be the only pandemic you will ever experience for the rest of your life. Just so you can understand the once-in-a-lifetime situation that was going down, right? Just understand that. We don't know if it will spread to humans. We don't know that yet. We just know that, yes, there's a possibility if this mutation happens and this situation happens. We know that in the lab, but we don't know if it can actually occur. We just know that in cells, in the cellular lab mixture, it has a possibility to jump over. That's all we know. And we don't know if these mutations that we essentially initiated will even occur naturally. We don't know that. We just know that if certain mutations occur, if certain dots are connected, this can happen. But we don't know if these dots will ever occur. We just know that, hey, if it occurs, this is a possibility. Remember, listen to my words. If it occurs, it is a possibility. We don't know if it will occur, and we don't know even if it did occur that the possibility would happen. We just know that, like, hey, if I connect these things here, it's a possible that it can happen, right? We're hedging ourselves, but we're watching it closely, right? We will not be blindsided. Those in the lunch alert community will not be blindsided by any news about an HKU5 virus. I can assure you that. We're going to keep it, like I said, we haven't done a lot of coronavirus content in a while. And it's only because, right, like, most of my lunch and learn community, right, are either vaxxed or know how to protect themselves or wearing masks, they're social distancing when they're doing the things that they can, right? And those who are new to the lunch and learn community, right, again, if you're watching this or listening to this, you are part of the lunch and learn community right now. Those who are new understand that, like, hey, there are some preventative measures that we can do, right, to make ourselves in the best possible position to not be infected by this virus. And if it does infect us, right, to make sure that we're protected as possible, right? Like, you guys are good, right? And again, I'll put a couple of links in the show notes as far as other past episodes that we've done on the coronavirus. We've done a lot, right? Shout out to the team. We've done a lot. As we continue to move in this post-pandemic world, just understanding that, like, hey, we can do some things better than what we did the first go around. We can educate better. We can learn better, right? We can try to break down any misconceptions better. We can do a lot of things better, right? Especially for those who are fortunate enough to still be alive after the pandemic, because that was not a guarantee, right? Like, millions of people died during that pandemic, right? And I think when we talk about the pandemic a lot, they almost talk about it in like theory and history books and like, oh, I remember this. And they almost talk, especially those who are survivors, almost talk as if like, oh yeah, this was just a random government conspiracy that every single government around the world planned. Like, they never like hash out their full thoughts. But understanding that when you talk about the pandemic, there are people here in the year 2025 who are not here because they passed away due to the coronavirus. During the height of the pandemic, during the lull of the pandemic, last week, like, there are people who are not here who will not be able to watch or listen to this because they passed away due to COVID. And I think it's easy for those, especially those who are not necessarily in the medical field, those who don't really take care of people, right, to be able to kind of separate themselves from a reality that people died from the coronavirus. And people die from disinformation. I think because they don't have to look those families in the eyes, it's much easier for them to like scream, from their laptop computer or in comment sections about like, oh my God, that's a fake virus, fake news. They wanted to implant chips in us via the vaccine, which is a whole nother discussion. We could have that conversation later, right? With just the weirdness that we experience. So I do want us to understand, like, there are some things we know and some things we don't know about this HKU5 variant. What I can tell you right now, no, we are not headed to a new pandemic. Yes, I do think it was an overreaction, especially from like these financial markets, right? To like, sell off and, almost mini crash just because they hear of a new coronavirus. Like, very big overreaction. Did not need to occur, especially when you're inclined to actually read the data, right? Which I know here in this country, we don't do a lot of reading. We just kind of get told stuff and we don't kind of try to find the information for ourselves. So it is what it is, right? So again, just for a key takeaway, should you be worried? No, but definitely be prepared for any news to come, right? Like if I drop another video and say, hey guys, it's time to worry, you'll know, because I'll start saying, hey guys, time to worry. But for now, don't need to worry. It's not infecting humans yet, right? There has been no human transfer of this variant, even though yes, one mutation can cause that, right? But we are closely monitoring that. So, before I get out of here, I want to say, like, what do you think we should do, right? Or how do you think we should move knowing that this variant is out there, right? I want y'all to let me know in the comments, right? How do you think scientists should move? How do you think the general public should move hearing this type of news? And do you think it was an overreaction, by, those, with the money and the stocks and the crypto to be trying to like all sell off because they think a new virus is coming?